Welcome to episode 3 of Oracles Gone Wild. Woo! Featuring myself, Amy Belair, and the beautiful, amazing, talented, cosmic, shamanic oracle Clune, Andrea Donnelly, my soul sister. Yeah, we're here. We often say at the beginning of these episodes we're here on such a similar mission with such a similar sort of flavor of wanting to call the bullshit of this false matrix, and also though like with levity and lightness and genuine love and desire to just see the wonderful people of Earth be free, finally set free, that this terrible spell be broken. So episode 3 is going to be a little bit shorter today. We're going to talk about like who's behind the false matrix. And yeah, we didn't even prepare for this one. So you're just going to hear us riff, but it's we have our views on who is here and who's behind it, and most importantly, what we need to remember as we navigate this insane false matrix clown labyrinth of horror. So, Andrea, hey girl, hey.
Hi.
Would you like to start?
I would, and I feel like one of the perfect places, perhaps, to a beautiful segue into this is something that you and I were. I'll just share a little personal anecdote that we were talking about before we started recording this, which is to me. This has always felt deeply personal. Personal in a way that I think like a lot of people are able to, like even people who are like truthers as it were, wearing a tinfoil hat, maybe don't feel as like they don't feel, I always get the sense that they're able to have like a deeper level of like objectivity about what is happening. And I cannot be cool about it. It feels profoundly personal to me. I was mentioning to you earlier that like when I was a teenager, I used to have dreams about battling draconian beings on the street that I grew up on, um, which was a which was a dirt road in New England, and in a big city, mind you. Also, it was like a really special place where we were across the street from hundreds of acres of old growth forest. Totally special, really beautiful, very unusual for a city, certainly as well. But I always had, I would say, so like, and I call that in because to me it was a very much a way of like I was like protected profoundly by like the truth, right? Like if there's the false matrix, then I think there's like behind that, right, the like greater divine truth. And to me, even when I was in my dreams battling draconians, using like great like intergalactic like swords of light and stuff to like battle these beings. um I was very held in like a very profound level of divine protection, because I think that for those of us who are here to really like go one to one with these systems and help people extricate themselves from the false matrix, those there are people like you and I for whom it is really personal. And I remember a couple of years ago I was doing a reading that I mentioned on episode 2 about how this person told me that I was like a pink plot, like created to be essentially a beam of love, hold the frequency of love. And I joined a group of guardians of the galaxy. And, we travel through, no big deal, through just like all, you and me and all of these people who are part of this like family, essentially, as I see it. Of divine light and power and remembrance. We travel through all of space and time to restore justice. And I said to her as I was doing this reading, I said, it's interesting because like this false matrix feels so personal to me. Like this is like these are my like family members. Like the way that I'm like angry about this is like not, it's not, again, it's not objective, it's not cool, it's like very much like very feels deeply personal. And she said, well, it's interesting because your purpose, as I understand it, as I like see your history and your soul chart, these beings, the Anunnaki, are a spinoff of your soul family. And I was like, yeah, of course. Like I know that. And thank you also for corroborating what I've always known to be deeply true. And then also like there are things about my actual like human family of origin that have connections to all of that. Like yeah, you intergalactic clown fuckery. And I just, so to me it's like this complicated thing where like it's not even, there are humans on the world stage who are part of all of, like, I would say that it's like this energy has infiltrated all of our systems. It has infiltrated religion, our monetary system, education, politics, just every sphere that exists, education, art, entertainment. Like there is no system that has essentially not been like being puppeted by these energies. And I think that like the false matrix, like again, this is something you and I could talk about for the rest of our lives and do and will. But I think that there's a way where like it's from the origin point as I see it, the false matrix archons are not even from whatever this realm actually is. They are energies that have come from like outside of this galaxy to essentially harness our resources, because when they fractured off from true creator, they lost their ability to be able to create on their own, because that comes from the heart. That comes from, I always say that, magic and miracles are born from your heart. It's a truly, it is the most powerful technology, as it were, that exists anywhere in this realm or anywhere else. And when they fractured off from us, from truth, from true divinity, from true creator, they ended up losing that capacity. And so they have no way of being able to engage essentially in anything without harnessing other people's resources and using us as batteries, because they abdicated their ability to be able to create when they fell essentially from grace, to be like really dramatic and reference something you mentioned at the beginning of the last episode where you talked about the mythology of the fallen angels. And I think that that's really like where we are, and from a bigger picture, right? Like we could spend like decades talking about the 3D, like this piece of the puzzle and how it connects to this and the research and, and all of that, but that to me in a nutshell is like what we're up against.
Totally. I mean I agree with you completely, and before we hit record, you know, like an hour and a half ago. We were talking, I was just saying, like, I never feel like these losers are my overlords, ever. I always feel like these are my peers. I'm from the same group. It's like I remember being at the same parties back when they were not total creeps. And I'm mad, personally mad, that I don't get to hang out with them anymore because they've just gone like so far into the extreme of like service to self, essentially, that it's we like there is no being at the same parties anymore. But I want to, so I agree that I feel like this happened. Trying to blame a group of people, like right now, it's fairly en vogue to blame all the Jews, which is absurd because there's a difference between Israelis and Jews. And having worked with and knowing multiple beautiful Israeli people, there's also a difference between as there is with any group, there are extremists who in and of themselves, like we don't have to condone what they do, but that also doesn't mean that they are like the masterminds behind all of this. It's like we're just all pawns. We're just being used in so many ways, and it's like who is the group du jour that gets to receive all of the global collective hatred and all of the blame? And guess what? It's none of us. And yet we're all participating in it. And that's the very confusing part. And that knowing that on some level we are in and therefore part of and therefore contributing and therefore upholding this like system that causes so much devastation is so hard to live with that it's very convenient to accept the like, oh, it's all the Jews, or oh, it's the Jesuits, or oh, it's the like whoever at any group of people. And again, like please don't mistake me for saying that I condone or agree with or minimize the atrocities that are occurring, because I fucking don't. I just see that it's all coming from a much higher level than this is not coming from the human level of consciousness. It is being brought through human bodies. Okay. And so I see it as coming from basically what I understand it to be the level of the seraphim, which are the closest angelic beings, like right the level beneath God. And I have memories of being a seraphim, that like it's a group of 12 creator beings, but we are not the ultimate creators. We are all like the Elohim, you know, beneath like the true flame of the oneness of all creation. And we are creating from the beautiful light of the flame. And I see that this group, sometimes what it looks like to me is we were like, oh, hey, let's create a universe where the theme is, you know, extremes of good and evil and free will. And let's just like, let's try it out. Not saying that conversation actually happened at the level of the Seraphim, but it sometimes that's what it feels like. Like even trying to blame the other group, it maintains the polarization. And the whole like the way through this fuckery is to dissolve the polarity by returning to unity, which means having to reconcile that which is seemingly irreconcilable. And it reminds me of the Stanford University prison experiment, where if you don't know what I'm talking about, there was an experiment done. Now I can't remember exactly when it was. Gosh, let's see. I'm gonna super quick refresh. Okay, 1971. It was a prison, sorry, an experiment through university, and I think it was either like a psych department or a social studies department, something like that. And the students were put into two groups. One was going to be the prisoners, and one was going to be the prison guards. And they just like simulated a prison experiment, and it had to be like like the plug had to be pulled on that very quickly because it devolved rapidly. These people who were colleagues, who were like classmates and had, you know, like were like there was potentially like camaraderie. I mean, I don't know the nature of their interpersonal relationships, but they were all equals, is the point I'm trying to make as students in this class. It very rapidly, within a matter of hours and days, devolved into a situation where the guards like took the completely fake illusion of superiority and authority that they were granted for the purpose of this experiment and absolutely abused it over, and like psychological damage was incurred. There were lawsuits. It was totally wild. This thing actually happened. If you've never heard of it, go like look it up, check it out. I think that's what's going on here. So when I say that, I feel like I am part of the same group as the elites. I feel like that's why I understand the like what they're doing and how this whole thing works, and why I never feel like they are my overlords or that I am like a pleb under their thumb. I never feel like that, no matter how much of a wrench they throw in my spokes. I'm always like, you pissants. Like I always feel like I'm on even ground with them. And I think that this whole thing has just devolved into absolute chaos, and they're so deeply immersed in the completely illusory role that they accepted that they can't even remember who they are. And as you said, they have electively, as part of this role, voluntarily separated themselves from unity with all creation. And therefore, they cannot manifest because manifestation requires the heart. Why does it require the heart? Because the actual primordial substance of all creation, including this physical material realm, is love. That is what the quantum field vibrates at. That's what the 0 point field, one and the same essentially, vibrates at. It is the frequency that we attribute the word love to. Like the purest love that you could ever feel. That is the baseline frequency of everything. And so when you tune into that through your heart, you direct it through your heart, it becomes amazing things. It is not coming from your ego and your, you know, like controlled, programmed, social media programmed ideas of what you want your life to look like. That is not the creation and manifestation process. It's something different. They can't do it anymore because they have voluntarily like almost like anatomically removed their hearts. I believe their hearts are somewhere for safekeeping, but they do not have access to them right now. They cycle around in the lower chakras, the lower three chakras, and those are like the carnal pleasures that we would understand as Satanism. And they also cycle around up in the upper three chakras that are the more like intellectual self-deifying pursuits that we would understand as Luciferianism. Neither of them is mutually exclusive. They can party with both drugs at the same time, and they do. And they use us to they use basically I think the reason that they target children so much is because they in order to be born here, oh, being born is hard. Being born, like you have to go through it all again, all of infancy and childhood and learning everything. And there's always the risk as a newborn that your heart could just be reactivated and you could be born to wonderful people and be immersed in love, and then you can't play that game anymore. I don't think they want to be born, but they aren't human. Okay, so the rest of us, our souls are not human. We are in a temporary human experience, but we purchase the actual ticket, the legit ticket into this realm, and we are born through a woman's womb into this realm, and we go through the whole baby thing again, and it gives us the opportunity to reactivate our hearts. And they instead, they come in by basically like tormenting children until they completely fracture their psyches and disassociate from their bodies. And then their
Yeah.
poor little soul just hangs out in the astral permanently. And these like horrible beings invade their body and take over. That's what I see as being their main vehicle of entering into this realm so they can
Yeah.
experience all the carnal pleasures. They take over people's bodies. So it's definitely people that are doing these things, but it's not human consciousness that's producing these horrible results. Like this is not originating from a human being. And the reason that they do so much black magic is because they can't manifest. So, black magic ceremonies are about sacrifices. They sacrifice to take the energy from something else. That's why living sacrifices, the purer the better. That means there's more energy and it's more potent, and it has been less, overlaid by life experiences. So often children are animals. They sacrifice to take that energy and put it towards the outcome that they desire. That is not manifestation. That is like a hack. It's a workaround so they don't have to deal with the karmic, like accumulation of everything that they do. That's what happens when you go into your heart. You have to deal with the karmic accumulation of everything that you have ever participated in. And that's what makes people afraid to go into their hearts, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. That was as they say here, I agree with every single thing that you've said. I think the way you articulated it was really beautiful. I got kind of emotional towards the end when you were talking about, their workaround, because I really agree with and see and experienced some really insane things. Like, I'm not going to get too into it because we do need to wrap it up. I feel like we'll dive into this more, but like the family of origin that I was born into was connected to these power systems. That is also not, I don't think it's a mistake in terms of like me remembering what it is that I'm here to ultimately do to help extricate you all. And just the entire, and it's not just the humans. Like we've talked about this, I think it was on the first episode, but um I know you're with me on this, that it's our divine spark, humans, it's animals, it's the elements, it's the water, the earth, the air, like everything that holds divine coding and divine truth has been manipulated and harmed and essentially abused to keep this like absolute buccanery like going. And it's really time, you guys. It's really time, you guys, to just like remember that we as divine beings hold so much beauty and truth, and however hard it feels, right, to like go into your heart because of all of the beautiful way that you explained, the enormity of sort of diving into that. It is very much time to just like really go inward, find a way to heal yourself, find a way to restore your own connection to divinity, and essentially reclaim your profound infinite power from these fake ass bullshit systems that are they're they're just we don't need them. And this is literally what the Great Awakening is about remembering that.
Totally. It's like if we go back to the Stanford prison experiment, it's like they're
Oh,
so deep into it that they can't even let go of the role of, in that analogy, the guards, but in this reality, like the elites, the complete
yeah.
service to self, like on, like the biggest, like depraved, like sex, drug, like insanity, adrenochrome bender imaginable. They can't they can't release their grip on that. They're too immersed in it. So we also can't wait for them to see the light. It ain't gonna happen. It's up to us to remember that this is all an illusion.
Yeah.
It's an illusion. We are not the prisoners. We are not their slaves. We are not the plebs, and we are not helpless. That we each have that connection that you're talking about to the divine spark inside of us. And it's everything, and it's free, and they can never take it away from us. All they can do is convince us that our heart is a scary place to be so
Yeah.
that we put up walls around our own hearts.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
the most beautiful place to be.
And the second each of us says we revoke all permissions, we revoke all contracts, all hooks, all cords, all vows, all oaths, all promises made with this or any false matrix from any space-time dimension or beyond, it's like literally game over. And you know, there's obviously more to it. But I'm so glad you brought in the Stanford prison experiment because that's one that I think about a lot. I think about it frequently. I've thought about it frequently for many years. I feel like it's the perfect like articulation and connection to like what is really happening in this realm. And it's so interesting too, because again, this is going to have to be another episode, but like when you look at the elites on the world stage in any whether it's entertainers or politicians or people who are religious leaders or spiritual, you know, spiritual leaders or whatever, they all have this like energy that like people like you and I who remember this cosmic truth to be true and understand and know and live this and breathe and speak it in a really profound way, it's just so obvious, right? And it's like they're not, it's not a human energy, it's not a heart-based energy. There's like all kinds of other like rabbit holes that we could fall down and like go into. You know, one of my favorite things for those of you who I feel like maybe I've mentioned this before on Third Eye Awakening, but you know, a great example too of how like it's literally not even humans that we're witnessing is when you look at a lot of pictures of elites over time, there will be shifts in things like their earlobes or like the shape of their nose or certain like things about their physicality that are not things that could ever change organically without like a mass amount of like reconstructive surgery, which is not, especially with something like the earlobes, like the former president of the United States, before this guy, if you go and you look him up and you look at his pictures over time, his earlobes go from being attached to being unattached to being attached to being unattached. I guess that's possible if you had really weird, hyper specific, steady surgery over time. But there's like
You can't
so
pick.
much more, but like it's not, but that's not a thing, and nobody is doing that. And so then it like begs a lot of questions, right? That ties into exactly what you and I are talking about how like these energies have come from outside of this realm, really co-opted people. We're essentially watching people being puppeted,
Yes.
and it can just all be over, right? And I think that that's like the bigger like thing that you and I are really calling people forward and into and with and through is to like reclaim our heart and our magic. And I'm going to just leave it at that because it's the most important thing that any of us can possibly do. And I am here for it to guide you home to your heart, and Amy is here to guide you home to your heart. And I honestly don't think there's anything more important than any of us can possibly do right now than to do that work.
Totally. Check us out. All of our links are in the episode notes, or I'm used to saying show notes because I'm a podcaster, but Andrea's website is weareheretoremember.com. My website is amybelair.com. Go check out the Third Eye Awakening podcast. Andrea has been on there like 3 or 4 times. There's some amazing conversations, but yeah, Thank you for being here with us. Let us know in the comments what you think, if this is an interesting topic to you, if there's other topics you want to hear us talk about, and if you have any questions, we would love to hear them. Okay. Have a great one. Till next time. Mwah.
Look at us.
We did it.
That was so, I'm so excited about these. Okay. I'll let you go get ready for your session. I love you so much.
Samesies.
Um, I'll get, I feel like I'm really on like a roll with this. So I'll get the second episode just like, you know, done and out there sometime tonight or tomorrow. And I'll do what I did last week of like adding you as a collaborator to all the things. And I love you and I will talk to you very soon.
Okay. Love
All
you.
right. Bye.
Bye.